Hello and welcome to Cheshire Audio. Now this is a retro review, which I do like a retro review, and I know I'm supposed to be selling new stuff and this is a shop that sells new things, but having done this for far too long, I do get excited by older equipment and things I used to sell years ago. So this is the point of the retro reviews, really. It's me. I just like that. I'm getting on a bit. So today's retro review is partly because I've just had two of these particular turntables coming into the workshop. And what I'm going to talk about today is the Dual 505. So let's reposition the camera. Let's have a talk about the 505. So there we go. I've actually got two Dual 505s in the shop at the same time. 5051, which was sort of very early 80s. I'm not quite sure when they started that. I think it might even be pre-1980, but just about. I had one in about 81, I think, something like that. Loved it. And then 5052. The only difference really between the one and the two is that the one had, if you actually watch my unreliable record players video, I talked about the cartridge arrangement on the Dual 505. I called it 5052 and I was wrong. Somebody put me right on that, so I was quite thankful for that. So the 5051 has a bayonet fitting for a cartridge, and there was a specific cartridge that came with it. Nothing else fitted, unless you bought, as has been done here, a little adapter plate which had the bayonet on it. So instead of it having the 2-bolt fit, it had a little bayonet fit. You put the cartridge underneath, twisted it, pushed back the lever, put the bayonet in, pull back the lever, and put a little grub screw down, and it locked into place. Clever and easy to fit, but there was only one option, so there wasn't a lot you could do with that really. And most cartridges now, most Duals of this era now have the little adapter plate on. But the bayonet arrangement was really quirky. It could be quite unreliable, losing channels and things, so hence talking about it in the unreliable turntables. But generally these were very robust. I mean, they're obviously German made, very cheap turntable, but in spite of that it's still got full suspension that works very well. It's a semi-auto, which is unusual for a specialist turntable, because most specialist turntables are full manual. There's no interrelationship between motors and whatever. It can be, as they get older, that can be sort of the downfall. And a lot of auto decks are very kind of impossible to repair when they get to a certain age. Semi-autos aren't quite so bad, although funnily both of these are in for sort of semi-automatic problems with the semi-auto. I don't tend to take these things in, but I do sometimes. I just give in and take them in. Unfortunately, both of these have got more issues than they should have. So, quite how it'll be pursued beyond this, I don't know. Yeah, the difference between the one and the two, really. I mean, like I say, this internal part, apart from the head shell, is identical. The main difference really is that they sort of prettied it up a little bit with a wooden, well, it's like a chip or MDF surround with a vinyl wrap on it to make it look like wood. And I think they did actually do a sort of walnut finish in these. I can't quite remember now. But other than that, the two decks are the same. But I mean, it's ended up in it with a different. You've got a different sort of hinge arrangement on the back as well. These are sort of proper lift-out hinges. This is a sort of almost integral little hinge. It's hidden behind. I can't quite get to it. But yeah, my memory of the Dual and sort of hearing them sort of in recent years, it's a very nice, very sort of enjoyable sounding deck. I just want to describe it. It's quite warm, quite good pitch wise. Sort of, it carries a rhythm very well. And at the price, I mean, you had to go to something like a Riga to better it really. There was lots of sort of turntables that came out in that sort of price range, but nothing was ever quite as a good and all rounder as the Dual really. And it's one of those turntables. I think when you talk to people about Dual, and I bet this will happen in the comments. I'm going to take a wild estimate that anybody who's been properly into hi-fi, who's in the 50s, 60s sort of age range or more, will have owned a Dual 505 at some point. I think probably, I reckon it's more than 50%. I mean, the other one that's a bit like that was the Pioneer PL12. The slightly older people than that would be Pioneer PL12 people, and then it's sort of the Dual kind of took over, and then later than that we've got, nowadays it will be a Project or a Planer One, but back then the Dual 505 was king really. yeah, the automatic, let's just sort of show a few sort of features on these things. Bit of a quirk with the Dual, which has sort of caused issues with most of them really, is they do have pitch control. It's very clever. It's an engineering marvel, the pitch control on this. Because what it is, there's a belt that drives a little pulley here, and that actuates on the pulley that drives the platter. So there's a belt drive, little pulley under there, and as you turn this pulley around, it expands the size of the little drive pulley. It's like almost like a lantern sort of design, and it's expands and contracts as you turn this, sort of making it go faster or slower, and you can check the speed on the little strobe at the side there. It doesn't work that well in here for some reason. I've got a proper bulb in here, not an LED one, but it doesn't seem to work very well. I've just checked them on the strobe, and it's my separate strobe, and it works fine. But these are quite difficult to see. I think you need quite a bright light on them really. The problem with those, as anybody who's got a Dual who's watching this will probably know already, that they tend to do this. That's what's left of the belt. They just crumble and fail, and that's it. Your pitch control's gone. I mean, you can kind of get in there manually and poke around, but it would take you ages to actually just poke the little pulley around, put the platter all back on, test the speed. Oh, it's wrong. Let's do it again. And it's a bit of a major job to change it. Apparently, you can get those belts. I've never actually sort of pursued it, but you can pick up those belts. Now, whether they're the correct belt, I'm not sure. But apparently, there are sources of the belts for these to be able to do that. Generally, when they go when they're in the right place, so you don't need to worry about it. But if they go sort of mid adjustment, then you're going to have issues really. Yeah, and also what I was going to talk about, there we go, semi-auto. So the semi-auto gives you, as you move, make sure it's in a lifted position, move across, starts the platter, then you can drop the stylus. Don't worry about this one. This hasn't actually got a stylus on it. I think this has been interfered with by a grandchild, so there's quite a lot of things missing, including a little clip for the arm. So yeah, nice little, and at the end of side, hopefully, just switch it off. It would actually lift up as well, but yeah. So it is, like I say, semi-auto. It doesn't return the arm. It doesn't take the arm to the start position or anything like that. It's literally, it just starts the motor as you move the arm across and switches it off when it gets to the end. And I think a lot of people miss that on manual turntables, but the actual mechanism, and I'll show you in a sec actually, the mechanism involved in creating that is ridiculous. I mean, not as ridiculous as a fully automatic deck, but there's so much going on inside these that they're kind of bound to fail. They don't really, because they are well made, but there's so much in there that's so sensitive and so prone to sticking or wear or whatever else that I'm amazed that they last as long as they do, to be honest. So anyway, what I'm going to do is, I don't know how I'm going to do this actually. After I've answered the phone, I'm going to show how to get inside one of these, because it's not obvious. Okay, back with you in a sec. Okay, so to get inside a Dual, it isn't a case of going in underneath on these. You go in through the top, and the only obvious sort of attachments or screws or anything are these two screws here, which are the transit bolts. Because when you actually, if you were going to post one of these to somebody in a box, you would transit by lifting up as far as they go, and then sort of unscrewing that way actually tightens up the suspension so it locks it down. But these are your way in really, because what you need to do is you put it all the way down so that they go slack, because there's a sort of a certain amount of the bolt which has got no thread on it. So there's about 3/4 of an inch with no thread, so there's quite a bit of movement on there. What you want to do is pull it up about halfway and then tip it like this, and then you should be able to lift it out like that. And I'll put the camera down because I need to do the other one as well, and I just realised I can't do that with one hand. Yeah, I'll just put the camera down and we'll do that. Okay, so I've got that one held like this, and then you go to the other one, do the same. I'm trying to do it so you can see. Do the same, little way up. Oh, the phone's ringing again. I'm really pleased people are ringing me, but they always ring up just a point like this. Tip that as well, and we're in. And there you go. And I'll stop the camera for a sec, and I'll just get this support. Okay, so I've lifted it up. Put a little screwdriver in there just to support it, which is a totally safe way of doing it. Obviously, never do this with it plugged into the mains, because there is live mains in through to here, so you don't want to do that. So yeah, this is unplugged, totally safe. Just to show what's going on inside here. Many levers and switches and all sorts going on. Really, it's switching for the arm and everything is within all this. There's motors there, main bearing. Like I say, many levers. As you can see it when you move the arm. It's moving three separate mechanisms there just to move the arm across, just to flick that switch. And those switches can become sticky, and a bit of switch cleaner can fix it. Sometimes it's just a bit of stiffness in this mechanism, or a bit of wear in the mechanism, or whatever. But there's sort of so many things that interrelate, that if one thing doesn't work, the other thing won't work. And with the dual, if it won't go into the switch on position, then the lift lower won't work, which is this bit. So that bar there interrelates with that bar, and that one can't release if that one's not actuated. And yeah, it's kind of a nightmare waiting to happen, really. I mean, they're nothing like as complex as full automatics. I mean, I stopped taking in full automatics for service years ago, because it could be a week's work, and you're just going around in circles unless you're really familiar with a specific model. So it's a case of finding somebody who really knows a model well to be able, like old garage and things like that, which are, some bits need grease, some bits mustn't have grease, some bits wear and might need adjustment. And it's just knowing those things, because one part of this which isn't quite doing what it's supposed to can set the whole lot. It's sort of like a domino effect. The whole lot can stop working just because of one tiny thing. It's just finding that one bit, really. Suspensions, these little springs and little feet, which sort of lock into a little cavity there. That's your transit point. So that's your bolt, which we've just angled out to move out. And when you tighten it in, it just tightens in on that. Works very well. You can't actually see the belt arrangement from here. I'll show you that in a sec, actually. That's the end of that's underneath the pitch control. There's a little sort of toothed wheel just there. Obviously no belt on this because the belt's over there on the floor, which would disappear off into here, and to access that you need to go in from the top, which I'll show you now. Okay, so put this back together again. All the suspension's bedded in, and you have to make sure everything's seated right when you do it. To take the platter off, now it's not the same as just you don't just lift it off like you would on most sort of manual belt drive decks. Generally, if they're an automatic or a semi-automatic, they'll have some sort of form of security to stop you just whipping the platter off, because there may be quite sensitive sort of levers and whatever in there. There might be mains in there sometimes as well, so it needs to have a way, just like an extra step you have to take the platter off. Obviously, if you're going to do this, unplug everything, make sure it's not plugged in. To be honest, I can't remember if the dual's got mains in there or not. I suspect it hasn't actually, but anyway, let's have a look. First thing is you take off take the rub mat off, and then you can see there's like a little bayonet arrangement in the middle. I mean, some decks have little circlips. I think also the Japanese, like JVCs, and even some things like old gold rings, I think, have a little circlip across here to stop you. So you have to actually get tools in there to remove it. The dual just has a little bayonet fit centerpiece there. Now, let's see if I can do this with actually holding onto the camera. What I'll do, I'm just going to brace it here with one finger just to stop the platter turning, like that. And what you need to do is very carefully just get a flat blade, move it around so it's a bit more accessible. Get a flat blade and just push against the bayonet like that, and it should just click out in a sec, like that. You can just feel it go when it gets to the right place. So you take out the little centerpiece, and you should be able to just lift the platter off. Yeah. Plaster straight off there. So yeah, there's no mains at all particularly there, but there's, like I say, quite delicate stuff going on there. got a little this little lever on here is for the lift off the vendor side. It will flick this lever. See what I mean about how everything's so delicate on this. And finally, if I got this running, because this wasn't starting up, it now will start up, but the lift off lever at the end of side is catching every revolution, so the deck's turning but clicking. So this all needs a bit of lubrication on it, just to allow it a bit of. It's not quite returning properly, and probably that return spring's had it as well. So there's so many. Say it's like a real rat's nest of things going on, that some things will affect others and others, yeah, whatever. You can sort of see the little two-stage pulley a bit better now. See how the little slots in it. I don't know if you can see on that, but the brass one behind. This is the little actuator wheel that runs off here with the belt, and behind it you've got a little lantern pulley, which isn't that easy to see, to be honest. This camera doesn't do close work very well, but it's like made of brass, separated out, and then it expands and contracts to change the speed. And there you go. Yeah, it's a complicated little thing, but it does, like I say, they were a great sounding turntable. They were proper audiophile sort of deck, really. They did have that sort of naturalness and the pace and the rhythm and all that sort of thing. Way ahead of a lot of the sort of direct drive and sort of Japanese sort of alternatives that were kind of in the same sort of price range, really. Much better thought through turntable, really. So yeah, that's the deal. I'm just going to put that back together again. I don't like it sitting there undressed. And now I'm not going to be able to do this with one hand, so I'll probably get so far and then leave it at that. No, can't do that with one hand. I'll just put it back together and pretend that didn't happen. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's the Dual 505. Nothing else to say, really. Like I say, they're getting a bit tired now, which is a shame. I think these very early decks, I mean, to be fair, that's 40 years old, possibly a bit more. That one's late 30s, so they've done all right, really. They've done all right. Yeah, so hopefully that was useful. If you've got any questions about this, just perhaps give me a call or email. I wouldn't leave questions in the comments, because I'm just not getting through them all now. It's really nice, to be honest, it's really nice. I am getting loads and loads and loads of comments, sort of 30, 40 a day quite often. I just can't get through them all. Because I'm running the shop and doing all those sorts of other things, trying to keep up with comments is like a major task. So I'm sort of just flitting through a few now. But if there's any real questions that you want to ask, just like I say, use the email, which will be shown at the end of the video, or give me a call. No problem with that. Don't worry about it. I quite enjoy getting calls. So yeah, that's the dual turntable. The 505 is still available. I mean, I think it might have just recently been discontinued, but the 505-4, because I am a dual dealer, I can still sell dual turntables, and the 505-4 was still available until very, very recently. It may still be available. The only slight drawback nowadays is, whereas when I bought my 505-1 in 1981 to whatever it was £69, and a Riga 2 was about 120, so it was almost half the price of a Riga 2. Now, I think the last price I saw for the dual was something like £650, which is plainer 3 money. So it's just not a competitive deck anymore, and it's literally has not changed. It's the same turntable. The 505-4, 505-2 were pretty much identical. But yeah, I mean, if you want a bit of nostalgia, that's fair enough. To be fair, I don't think I've actually sold any of the 505s. I've sold some of the other models, but not the 505, which is a shame. But yeah, I think it's kind of priced itself out now. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Don't forget to subscribe, and perhaps give us a like if you do like. I'll see you in a future video. Thank you very much.